Greeting HMC friends, and yes, today's devotion is a little late. It's not my usual day. I must be getting old because I clean forgot. But even though it's late, it's still good to be with you. Today I want to read from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 8, and reading from verse 14. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. Well, this little piece of scripture reminds us of what it must have been like for Jesus with what we would call his family friends. Peter and he spent a lot of time together. And maybe in this text they had been returning from a journey or out during the day teaching, maybe at a local synagogue or whatever the business was coming home. A bit of downtime. And as they come home, Peter's mother-in-law would have been well known to Jesus. She was not well. As we would say today, she probably had the flu. And we all know what that is like. We don't hear in the story any requests, but we just hear the simple words. Jesus put his hand on Peter's mother-in-law, and she was healed. Now, the first thing I love about this little piece of scripture is the simple gesture of Jesus taking his hand and lovingly placing it on Peter's mother-in-law's hand. You know, sometimes just a hand that is reached out, a squeeze, or just an appropriate touch can bring such healing in those moments. A reminder to us that too, when we reach out, sometimes we reach out to people who haven't been touched for a long time. But of course it needs to be appropriate. The second thing that we see in this piece of scripture is that she got up and she began to wait on them. One presumes she would have made a meal or boiled the kettle, as we would say today. She would want to have been the hostess. Very often we want from Jesus. But we see in this healing that as she needed healing, that it wasn't just about her need, but out of that, she was to serve others. And so sometimes when we come and we have requests for God, it's not just for ourselves, but maybe that prayer, Lord, so I can serve you, or this can be for your glory. And maybe that's a good way for us to be looking at the purpose of our prayers. And so today, maybe put on the kettle or phone someone who needs a call. For as Jesus reached out, there was healing. And I pray that for you and those around you, there is a healing moment. Take care and God bless.